How is everybody doing? It's Paul from Magpie 24/7, and well, I didn't think I'd be recording another one so soon, to be honest. After yesterday, apologies it didn't get out till later on, but technical issues, couldn't get things to work, this, that and the other, so I popped them up on my own personal YouTube and shared them obviously across all of Magpie 24/7's social media accounts. But another day, another crisis at Newcastle. It's the club that always just gives, isn't it? It really does. And news today that the injury to Dwight Gale could be quite a bad one. The one player he really didn't want to get injured was Dwight Gale. Yes, he's not everybody's cup of tea, he's not my cup of tea 100%, but he is the best finisher at Newcastle United, and our only realistic hope of getting anywhere near double goals in a season. But according to what was put out this morning by Miles at the Gazette, it's looking like it could be quite a bad one. He could be out for quite a bit of time, and if that is the case, you are going to be looking at an attacking lineup of Andy Carroll, Mutu, if he can even be found, or if he hasn't already been sold or loaned out, and Joe Linton, the man who was actually missing in action down at York, but it turns out that I believe his missus is due to give birth shortly, so it is slightly reassuring to know that he can find one spot and hit the back of the net. But it is concerning if Gale once again goes down to an injury, and I touched on this yesterday, that Gale is very susceptible to injuries, whether they be actual injuries or psychological injuries, but he is always unavailable, always coming back from a this or a that or the other. Today's no different. Being a Newcastle fan, it will be worst case scenario and he'll be missing for a while. So every man and his dog realises that Newcastle are short, are inept, are firing blanks in the goal scoring charts, and are desperate for a striker. The only person who can't say this at Newcastle is Steve Bruce, the man. To coin the fucking phrase is a bit of an ostrich. He's sticking his head beneath ground. He's towing the company line. He is towing the thing that everything is okay. But if you honestly want to spin the roulette wheel when we're in this situation, do not be surprised if the end result of it all, of this major gamble, is in the relegation, because a side who doesn't score goals will not do well. You can't keep putting the onus on the defence to keep clean sheets and nicking things 1-0 and praying for stuff and hoping that Kieran Clark fires a few again, or Fernandez can help out, because luck will run out. Form is temporary, class is permanent, and we need class reinforcements. I am sick and tired of Newcastle, who should be renamed Cheapcastle under this current guise, going for constant foreign imports who are not proven. Today we've put a bid in of between £3.5 and £4 million for a Greek left back, which is fantastic if you're another side who's got a bit of a squad and can afford to take a gamble in a position. But we can't. We don't have a left back on our books. But no, it's okay. We'll take a gamble on somebody who's never played a second of Premier League football, who's coming from a foreign country into ours and has to adjust to the culture and everything else. Now, he could be a fantastic player. He's played for Greece 7 times. Brilliant. But there's no certainty that will translate to good times at Newcastle United. We've had umpteen players who've come in. Henri Save was the captain, was it over Bordeaux somewhere, when he come in, and look how shabby shite he's been. There's been other players throughout the years who've signed, have been captains of their club, they've made international appearances, they've done well, this, that and the other. They've come to Newcastle and they've absolute bombed. Why we don't look for some, even just some, proven Premier League experience, players who can definitely do it, or young players who are just on the cusp of being able to do it, You know, for all the issues over Jeff Hendricks, you know what you're going to get. It's Ron Steele style. You know what you're going to get on the tin. You've seen him do it week in and week out at Burnley. You know, and it's going to be pretty much of the same when he comes to you know, his Newcastle debut and obviously on from there. But it boils my piss when it gets to the strikers department, because, you know, Steve Bruce is adamant that everything is okay, and it is not. We've not got the squad together. A striker, we were told by Steve Bruce, was a priority that they were looking at before, yet this season it just doesn't seem that there's any urgency in any of the cheap bastards who run the club. Mike Ashley is the cheapest owner known to man. Lee Charnley, Mr. Cheap himself, cheap and cheerful, cheap as bloody chips. He's useless, he's inept, he's pathetic, you know. And then Steve Bruce, he's becoming more and more a puppet for the regime. He's coming out with lines that I last heard in Pardew excuse bingo, and it's just really starting to boil my piss. I have real major reservations about this season that is upcoming, and the club is doing very little to be able to reassure me that we're going to have all of the boxes ticked. We won't have any issues. I mean, you look, the excuse is about the money, right? I understand what has happened. I'm a businessman myself, self-employed myself. I know there's been tough times. However, when I look from a football perspective and I see Chelsea spending a couple of £100 million plus potentially more on, you know, great players like you know, Werner, you know, the German lad, and other players. They've spent a couple of £100 million, and after what, Chilwell and stuff, aren't they? Then you see Manchester City going out and spending above what our total budget is supposed to be at £40 million, just on a defender, on a whim. They can take the chances, they can splash the cash. Yet Newcastle, it is used as an excuse and used as a stick to beat the Newcastle United supporters with, over time and time again. We have lived through austerity well before coronavirus. We have lived within net spends. We have lived of being spreadsheet champions time and time again. We've had all of that. We've heard, oh, Mike Ashley's willing to support the club, blah blah blah. Bullshit, absolute bullshit. We're scared to spend a penny. You know, the deal for the left back, a couple of £1 million, should be peanuts. It's peanuts to Championship bloody clubs, man. You know, Leeds come straight up from the Championship and yet are going to be outspending us. You've got other people who are not scared to commit resources to give the management and the coaches the tools they need to do the job. But Newcastle, despite the fact he says, Steve Bruce, I'll knock the doors down, the only fucking room he is knocking any door off is that to fucking catering on the tea lady. Because it's certainly not Lee Charnley to tell him to fucking grow up, get his balls, reinsert them, and reinforce his squad. We kick off in literally, what, 2 and a bit weeks? And we're going in with Joe Linton, who was an attacking midfielder. He's never a striker in a month for Sundays, fit and available. That's if he's done his paternity leave, like. And then we're going into it with Andy Carroll. And you know, the romanticist inside of me would love a fully fit, available Andy Carroll. But we all know he's going to break down after a few games. And then you're left with what, Joe Linton playing out of position again all season. It's a joke. You know, I've been scrapping about, is Elias Sorensen still at the club? And this is what it's come down to. It's a joke. We're Newcastle United. And it just literally does boil my piss, because Steve Bruce doesn't do any favours for himself. Because if this season starts badly, with what's going on with the takeover and the circus and being fucked over by the Premier League and shafted by the Premier League and lied to, then the pressure is going to be going on to him. Is it all deserved? No, it probably isn't, but he's going to get it because he's the only public face at Newcastle, and he's the only person that the fans can take the anger out on, because Charnley, there's been more sightings of Bigfoot of than that fucking scared shit who's supposed to be leading this club. Ashley teases, oh, I might put a statement out, but then he takes it back. It's a classic bullseye situation. Look at what you could have won. With the Saudis there, with the unlimited fucking funds and everything else like that, and having somebody like Staveley and the Reuben brothers involved who actually get the city and actually get the supporters and actually get the need for communication. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's going to be another season of, like you say, austerity and trying to finish as high as we can in the Southampton Cup. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick to the back fucking teeth of competing in the Southampton Cup every single season for every single pundit, from fucking Jamie Redknapp to Rio Ferdinand to Hairy Hands Bastard, telling us how lucky we are to have Mike Ashley, how he doesn't have to put money in. That really pisses me fucking right off. Oh, Steve Bruce is doing a great job and he's not a championship manager, this, that and the other. Well, if he's so fucking great, how come he's never been at Chelsea, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal? He's never been even in the conversation for those jobs. So shut the fuck up. He is a championship manager, working in a very difficult situation, coming in after having to replace after replacing Rafa Benitez. Steve Bruce is always going to find that particularly difficult, particularly hard. It's not an easy job. He's probably a lovely bloke. I don't know him. He comes across as genuine, but he also comes across as a puppet and a corporate tool. And it's that I can't stand. And now it's how you can't see the glaringly obvious. You know, that Batshuayi or whatever the fucking hell he's called down at Chelsea, screaming out for even a low move, a cheap move. You'd think that would be right up Newcastle's market, right up our street, but no action taken. And if we do take action, like with the free transfers of Mark Gillespie and Jeff Hendrick, we take fucking ages. We go to snail's pace, giving anybody else who actually wants these players ample opportunity to jump in ahead of us and to get those players. We have not got a rush in us whatsoever. We're so idle as a football club. We're so lazy as a football club. And you see hungry football teams coming up with supporters who are wanting it so much, where you've got that synergy between supporters, owners, management. Even Norwich last season, when they absolutely butt-fucked us at Carrow Road in a disgusting display, you're looking afterwards and you're seeing the whole club together, and you're like, we don't have that. We're a million miles away from that at Newcastle. All Mike Ashley cares about is getting his money and fucking jizzing it all over the high street, buying up more former great names for an ego trip and for a buy cheap, sell high mentality. But it is so frustrating, and the Newcastle supporters don't deserve it. And the thing is, if it was a one-off, or you can accept issues like this at any time. It can happen to any football club to have a bad season, but then you've got to ask yourself, are people trying to put things right so that in subsequent seasons you're not going to have seasons of absolute crap? And at Newcastle, nobody's ever learning the mistakes of the past and putting in things so that they don't happen again. At Newcastle, we're quite happy to rinse and repeat as long as we stay fourth bottom or slightly above. Not too high, because, oh my word, it would be a disaster if we got into Europe, because that would mean Mike Ashley would have to put his hands deep in his pockets and buy some more players to beef out the squad for a European campaign. So no, we can't be greedy and ask for anything like Europe. We can't be greedy and ask for a cup run, this, that or the other. No, we've got to be more than happy to compete in the Southampton Cup every fucking season and just stay fourth bottom and around about there. Then that's it. Okay, that's brilliant. And 52,000 of us are expected to turn up week in, week out and lap up this fucking delightful scene that's in front of us. I hope Steve Bruce has gone to Ireland whilst he's been off, and he's got a couple of 4-leaf clovers, he's got some Lucky Charms, whatever he's got, because he's going to fucking need them. because with Newcastle United's awful luck, with our track record with injuries and our inability to sign proven quality players and our reliance on the wrong type of players constantly, the writing is on the wall. And you know, some people will even in our own fan base, want to see us go down. I understand that logic to a certain point, but I want to see us compete. I want to see us do well. I want to see us challenging for cups. But it's just every fucking day that you wake up and it's something more shit to do with our football club. And today again, more shit. The only striker who stood a chance of getting into double figures could be out for a decent wedge of time. And by the time he comes back, it could well be too late. Because, you know, with the way the transfer windows and stuff's working, you can't do what Mike actually likes to do. And, well, oh, they're in trouble, I'll invest in January to get them out of the shit for that season. And we'll just stay up and then we'll rinse and repeat again. That potentially could not work. We could be buried by then. Steve Bruce hasn't got the time. He hasn't got the luxury of having the fans on his side to the degree that a Rafa Benitez and stuff had before. So I hope he wakes up to the actual realities of what is in front of him. And that is a major relegation fight. You know, that's all Newcastle fans have got to look forward to. But of course, we should be grateful for that, shouldn't we? Us ungrateful bunch of absolute bastards. Anyway, if we do try and do something miraculous in the transfer market and do actually sign somebody, whether it be unproven, proven, no matter what, we'll bring it to you on Magpie 24/7 just as soon as we can. If you already aren't, check us out on Instagram and Twitter as well as our Facebook page. Fingers crossed, pray for Dwight. Goodness me. Anyway, I hope everybody is okay and well. These are difficult times. Nothing on the takeover. Nothing on the transfers. Stay strong. Keep safe. Keep it tuned. And I'll speak to you later.